Hello everybody, welcome back to MAN471 Fundamentals of Project Management. My name is Roland and these are the slides I used teaching project management at International Business School in Suzhou, China between 2017 until September 2019 when I resigned. In our fifth session I was always focusing on the project manager because there is an idea that this guy is the one who is managing the project, and the role of the project manager in modern context is very much different from that. And in order to emphasize this, I used a case study from our Pinto book, Dr. Sridharan, talking about what does it mean to be a project manager and what are the skills that we need in order to be good project managers. Now, then we need to look at what is contemporary leadership like, and focusing on that actual leadership, the types of leadership that we need to display in order to achieve project success can be exemplified in the case study I was looking at, Shackleton's Antarctic journey, where the whole team got into life-threatening danger, but managed to come through it through the leadership of Shackleton. And I want to close with looking at the results of this leadership, not only in case of Shackleton or Dr. Sridharan, but on a more generic aspect, and use it as a leverage in order to achieve outcomes for your project. Now, the project manager, we need to separate what you're doing in a project and what you're doing as a manager. So as a manager, your task is to ensure compliance with the status quo, ensure that people are following the planned objectives, the rules of what they are supposed to do, and if necessary, take corrective action. So what you are more doing is to make sure that the status quo is correctly executed and, if possible, reduced in the time it takes to complete. On the other hand, as a project manager, you are the one that needs to make sure the problems of doing the project, of performing the actions, are solved beforehand. You are the person that is supposed to lead the team and motivate them in order to create their input into the project, so that then leads to the outputs that we want to achieve. And inherently, every project, at least the major projects that we are performing in our organization, are always about change. And if we as project managers do not recognize and implement the change, not only via the project but within the project, because no project plan survives contact with reality, then we fail to deliver a successful project. We fail to deliver organizational strategy. So one thing I said about the differentiation between a manager and a leader is that the leader is always questioning the status quo, while the manager ensures the status quo remains in effect. And that means a project manager cannot be a manager. If the project manager is approaching their job as a manager, following strict plans, monitoring results, and solve technical problems within the actual status quo, then they fail to deliver the project on a strategic level. Maybe they are on the executional level fulfilling what the project is supposed to achieve as a goal, but the benefits that are meant to be delivered through this project will be very difficult to realize. And one of the major problems in project management today is, if you look at the APM or PMI surveys, is benefit realization. Now, admittedly, this is not only a problem of having the wrong project manager or having incapable project managers. When we go back to the first session, I was talking about how projects can be doomed from the start. If we select the wrong project, if we select projects that are more about manifestation of power, manifestation of what the current leader of the organization wants to see as an outcome, instead of what the organization needs in the future, then obviously you can be as good as a project manager as they come. You cannot turn crap into gold. So this doesn't really help that you as a project manager are judged by their results. So the only thing you can do in these situations is that you deliver the project outcome that is supposed to be delivered. And benefit realization here is the tricky part. You are not the one to realize the benefits in the organization. It's the organizational leadership, the organizational management that actually needs to realize the benefits. And in a situation for, let's assume the worst case scenario, the project is something that has been pushed through against advice, whether good or not, from management, especially middle management in the organization. They will not be able, or actually unwilling, to realize the benefits from the project. So while as a project manager you don't need technical expertise in all cases, and I kept emphasizing that, the actual technical skills that I want to teach you in terms of project management is that I want you to look at a project plan and be able to say, okay, this is nonsense, you're fobbing me off. When you look at resource allocation, when you look at activity durations. But as a relationship manager, which is your key priority as the project manager, you don't have to be a technical expert. If you are managing your team right, then the team is delivering on their part of the project, which then makes delivering your part of managing that project much easier. And here is the dilemma. When we are talking about international teams, we will see in the next session how difficult it is to manage an international team. And I used to run these simulations where students were taking on the role of project manager or the project team member, and depending on how we played this through, it was very difficult for students to understand, well, why is this outcome not what I want? So as a project manager, you need to be aware of the difficulties of managing complex relationships between team members and you. And as the leader of that project, as the face of the project, you are the one that is representing those people and the team towards management and anybody outside that project, really. So one of the more contentious issues was, how do you act as a project manager? And I used Donna Shirley's example in the Larson and Gray book of managing at the very extreme point where you are managing a team that does things that you don't understand at all. And culturally, it is very difficult for some people to manage people that are better than them. So we have seen in project management all kinds of things, from starting to micromanage people, to belittling them at any given opportunity because you are weak as a leader, in not only in knowledge but in personality in that sense. And it really destabilizes the project to a point where good people do not perform to the benefit of you as a leader and the project itself. And at worst case, and this is what students couldn't understand, if you have people that are at really the top end of the skill level, they will easily find a new project, a new organization, a new job. And you are then the person that needs to deal with the project as a project manager without that expertise. So in other words, you have so many Einsteins on your project, you're managing them very, very badly, so they go away, and you have to deal with whatever is left in the organization or whatever is willing to work with you on that project. And obviously, that is detrimental to the success of the project and the organization. And I used to say a very famous sentence: people never leave jobs, they leave bad managers and toxic work environments. And this is what this is all about. As Donna Shirley says, at some point you just have to trust people, because they are going to leave, and those performers are not only your project team. As a project manager, you are one of the focal point of everything. You need to manage everybody's expectation, and here you can see in this illustration that if you accept you can't please everybody, you need to get on with managing diverse agendas while at the same time focusing and really elevating project success to the status where you have to say, well, agenda aside, this is what we need to accomplish, and you can't please everybody, so then please the person who is paying for the project. Give and take in these relationships. Communicating and creating goodwill before you need it is crucial. You can't just come to any kind of stakeholder and say, I need this, I need it now. So if you manage this relationship beforehand and acknowledge the expertise and the interest of any external stakeholder to that project, and then in order to progress with the project, you unite these people with an agenda they don't necessarily can agree with, by highlighting the benefits of what it means. Well, if this project is completed, you get this and that out of it. Yeah, you have to give here and you get that. So it is always a balance between those two things, and creating a situation where everybody perceives to get more than what they give. And as a project manager, the skills that you need, Dr. Sridharan is very, very specific about it. You need to lead by example. You can't demand from people what you are not willing to give. And again, relationship management. You can't manage a relationship if you are not honest in this relationship. If you are being perceived as having lied, as being deceptive, then you immediately lose all standing that you may have as a leader. And being consistent in your application of rules, whether the rule is good or not, is one key thing that can go either way. So if you have a bad rule but consistently implement it, then at least people know where they stand. If you have a good rule but don't implement it in a consistent and transparent fashion, then people will never know, well, what is going to happen if I do this, or if this situation is happening, how will the project manager react? And it is not so much about the skills and knowledge. We can accept those as a given to the level of what you need as a project manager to understand. And Dr. Sridharan summarizes this: punctuality, integrity, good morals. That is all that is required. Everything else you can achieve, you can gain by focusing on the project, the technical side, and managing the relationships within the project. Everything else, anything that you can learn on the technical side will come. This is not the main focus. You can be the best programmer in the world. If you're not managing relationships within the group of programmers that you have, your software project is very likely to fail on that end, and not only on the user end. One of my friends, when I lived in China, Mr. Rosenthal, said, if it's one skill that you want to have in this world today, empathy. Understanding where the other person is coming from, understanding their feelings and their position in relation not only to you, but of the relationship between them and the project, between them and the organization. And if you do that well, you can leverage a positive effect towards project success. I used to say this is what professionalism is about. We use this word very, very often. And professionalism is very, very much about the attitude towards the task at hand. If you are approaching any kind of task in a, oh yeah, whatever kind of fashion, then the results will not be what you want to achieve. I also used to say, if you want to have a 100% success, you need to make 120% effort. There will be a discrepancy between your perception of 100% effort and the person that receives the result of your effort, saying that, well, this is effort is like 80%, 90%, whatever. It can go either way, but it is, in this case, much better to over-deliver than to under-deliver. Because once you under-deliver, you are constantly in this state of, well, this was not good. You took 100% of the reward, or you want 100% of the reward for doing half the job you are supposed to do. And it is the client that decides what is professional and what is the outcome that we want. It is not you as a project manager. And that discrepancy is one of the biggest challenges for new project managers. And whenever I am teaching a project management class, I look at the class and I say 90% of you are here because project management looks good on my CV. That is the wrong way to approach it. It only looks good on your CV if you are actually a professional and good project manager. If you are not, if you just want to put this on your CV, just do it. You don't need to go to a class to do that. Yeah, just add it to your CV. But the effect is the same. Whether you go to a class, whether you pay attention or not, it doesn't matter. If you do not internalize these things, if you do not internalize, in particular, the strategic nature of the task at hand, you will not achieve the success you want to achieve. Now, what kind of qualifications are we looking for from that kind of person? The person needs to have the right energy. You need to be resilient, or what we call drive. You must be disciplined in your daily actions and disciplined in regards of the key achievables of the project. Now, you need to have several kinds of intelligence, not only your academic technical knowledge. Your social intelligence needs to be particularly high. A social intelligence can partially compensate academic and technical shortage of intelligence. So, as I said, you don't need to be the best programmer in the world to run a team of the best programmers in the world. Yeah, you don't need to be a key or an important architect in this world in order to run a construction project. You need to have a good relationship with the key architects on that project. If you have no interest in dealing with human beings, if you don't have any empathy for the people on your team, then you won't understand, well, why are things happening in the project in the way that they happen. At the same time, you need to be result oriented, but always have boundaries, have a limit in terms of all kinds of intervention in the project that could jeopardize the next step in the project. If you are seeking 100% assurance of actions and outcomes all the time, don't go into project management. No matter how well you have planned through any kind of project, if you are not comfortable with things not going your way, you will invite a lot of stress on you yourself as a person, and by proxy also on the team that is performing its task. And then novelty seeking as a final qualification. If you are not constantly challenging the status quo of not only the project, not only the processes, you need to challenge everything, including yourself, and ask the question, well, can I do this better? Can I be better? Can this project be better? If you don't do that, if you are just as an automaton producing what is put in writing, you will not achieve the project outcomes. You will not enable the organization to achieve the intended benefits, if they even know what benefits they intend with this. But you will be the person leading a project with questionable outcome that costs a lot of money. Money is still a scarce resource, and falls short of what it could be. Now I want to have a look at 21st century leadership, and in this case this is a little bit ahead of its time and behind its time at the same instance. We are now talking about the Great Resignation and how bad leadership and bad management are a crucial part in the decision of many people to walk away from a job, even without having an alternative. So the question that always arises, well, what kind of project manager do I need on this project? If you have a small project, if the project is not complex, the importance of project manager P1 is a technical expert, because it's about getting the things done right. If it's a large project, especially with a high complexity, you need a different kind of person here. You need a person that is questioning, well, why are we doing this? Are we doing the right thing? Not doing the things right, but is this the right project that we should be doing? And that question can be very, very uncomfortable, not only for asking it, but for accepting that this question is being brought up. That somebody in the organization has the audacity to question the CEO of the company with well, are we really doing what is best for the organization, or are we doing something that you want to be done? And I used the example of Colonel Hal Moore, the colonel that led one of the first assaults in Vietnam by the US Army against the Viet Cong. And he promised his men that when they go into battle, he will be the first one to fight. And when they disengage from the battle, he will be the last person to board the helicopter and leave. And he will not accept that any men are left back on the battlefield still to be retrieved. And his leadership made it possible that a vastly outnumbered force of United States Army soldiers won and totally annihilated a vastly superior force of Vietnamese combatants at that time. Now, if you do not stand up for your team, how can these people trust you? If you do not take personal risk, like in this case, Colonel Hal Moore being the first one out on the battlefield is a tremendously risky position to be in, because, well, he is where the guys are coming. This is the leader. Shoot him. The others don't know what to do. If you do not lead by example, if you do not do what you expect from others, then trust is not there. And when you follow the issues of trust, the organization that is the most successful in this world, the United States Navy SEALs, and Simon Sinek is using this as an example. The United States Navy SEALs rather have someone that is a mediocre performer that they can 100% trust, rather than a top performer, the best performer in the world, that has zero trust with the team. Now, in this case, this is a very, very extreme organization tasked to achieve success in very desperate situations and against all odds. And they achieve success by having a team on the job, on the mission, that 100% trusts each other to do the right thing at every single moment of the mission. If that trust is not there, how can you perform your task in these extreme circumstances when you don't know if the other person is doing their job properly, or if their failure to complete their job will impact on you doing your job? It is a situation you don't want to be in, especially when you go into extreme project management, not only the United States Navy SEALs, but if you're thinking of any kind of extreme project management, for example, doing a trip through the Arctic, doing a trip through Antarctica on foot, so many things can go wrong. And if you do not have a team on you or team with you that you can 100% trust to understand the mission, the objective of the project that you are trying to complete, then you shouldn't be going at all and undertake that kind of job or mission, because it is very, very likely that it will fail. Now, when we look at leadership theory, the leadership theory has gone through a tremendous change over the last decades and maybe centuries, from an autocratic leadership that says this is what you're doing or else, to more stick and carrot style of leaderships. These are the benefits of what you're doing and this is the punishment if you don't do it, with predefined consequences of outcomes. Now, the autocratic leadership is a much stronger variation of this, of course. And there is not only these three styles of leadership, there is many, many more. Even nowadays, we find new styles of leadership. And the one that stood out for me was charismatic leadership in terms of how it is being achieved. So, for example, Steve Jobs in Apple, or Tim Cook in Apple, and to other degrees, even when you are looking at sports, Michael Jordan is, if you are playing basketball with Michael Jordan, of course, when he says, pass the ball to this person, do this, we are doing this kind of play now, then you are going to follow, because you know this person does everything for success. They know what they are doing. And having the charisma, having the relationship with the team is a key ingredient for a team accepting a leadership role, especially if that person is not technically above them, but only by this decree a project leader. And I keep saying to people, it doesn't matter where you are coming from, it doesn't matter where the team member is coming from. If you both agree that project success is the goal, then you as a leader, you as the manager of that person, you need to use the approach that works at that given moment in time. It could be a totally different approach tomorrow, but focusing on the outcomes, you need to enable that person to sync with you and to do the job they are supposed to do, thinking of the most beneficial outcome in the project. And when you look at the case study in the Larson Gray book, when Shackleton's team was basically stranded in the Arctic, is that under very difficult circumstances when food was scarce and through personal conflicts that came up irrationally in this scene, that the team stuck together and shared scarce resources, even when one of the team members wasted their resources by engaging in completely unproductive behavior. We're going to look at conflict management later in this series. But for now, leadership is important because it is contagious. When teams see how they are being treated as individuals by a leader, they will facilitate this kind of interaction between one another. So it is like passing on a ball and multiplying the effect of positive leadership in order to achieve the goals. Now, as I said earlier around, it is very, very difficult in certain situations to act counterintuitively and against what you have learned and what society around you has brought you up with. And in my organizational behavior class, I talk ad infinitum about Hofstede's cultural dimension and how it impacts day-to-day life in the organization. And going back to what I said about situations of leadership, if you, for example, live in a high power distance culture, then you as a leader cannot accept the people you manage, your team is better than you. And people will exercise power over subordinates instead of trusting them. They will do the right thing and make me look good. It is not about them understanding that these people know what they're doing. They know that. They know that. It is all about how it looks on the outside. In Chinese culture, for example, we have the term saving face. And across all Asian cultures, face or the concept of face is impacting very, very much on human-to-human interactions. There was one case I was discussing with a Chinese manager, and he is treating his Chinese employees completely different from what he was treating his non-Chinese employees. So with Chinese employees, he very openly said that to me. Every couple of weeks, the first Chinese employee that I see, I just scream and shout at them. And then everybody in the company knows, this is the boss. You don't mess with the boss. Get out of the way. No matter what it is, and even if that person hasn't done anything at all, this is how leadership and power is being exercised as a cultural artifact. If you do that, and in this case the manager actually knew that, a lot of Chinese managers didn't know that, and a lot of my students were totally perplexed at the reaction of a non-Chinese employee to this kind of treatment. Well, how can this be happening? And just to cut things short, a non-Chinese employee would be saying, what the heck are you talking about? You get out of my way. I can walk out of this organization right now, go to the competition. So bugger off. And that is something that is completely impossible to understand or contemplate if you are not aware of Hofstede's cultural dimension, in this case, the power distance culture of not only your society, but the society and upbringing of the other person. Now, when we look at the results of leadership, it is the one thing that can make success, turn a situation around, or if you are looking at the other side, if you have battled situational leadership, it can turn a project that is on track into a complete mess. You not only need to have the tactics of day-to-day management, but you need to understand the bigger picture. at the same time, which is tremendously difficult to unite into one kind of situation and one kind of reaction. Now, one thing that a lot of people do not understand is that followers are made. Your actions and interactions are creating followers, or they drive them away. It can go either way. So what we need to understand in the grander scheme of things, when the game is on the line, this is when the true leaders show up. And when these people are successful in managing very difficult situations, people will start following these leaders and imitate what they are doing, and it will filter down throughout the organization. So the worst case scenario is when you have really good people doing the actual thing and very, very bad leadership, because that will filter down. It will lead to situations where the result is being enhanced. That is all right, but it will be enhanced in a very bad way. And that is what I meant with using leadership as a leverage to go either to the success or to the failure side. It can go either way. If you have an authoritarian leadership that, especially when it fails to achieve results, will create a situation where at first the lower echelons of the company will start giving up on telling people, well, this is a bad situation, we need to fix it. Okay, here is a problem, we could do it better like this. People will stop and simply wait until they are told what to do. And especially in that kind of situation, the moment leadership looks the other way, will stop what they are supposed to do. So once you are down that road, you need constant supervision, you need constant micromanaging, burdening leadership with low-level tasks of execution. And moreover, you can, once the boot is on the neck, you can't take the boot off the neck. Or as they say in Asia, you can ride the tiger all right. It is getting off the tiger that is the difficult thing. And that is where I want to close today. And referring back to our sources, both books are great books for teaching and learning project management. Thank you so much for joining me today. See you next time.